Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions with DrShiny. This is a reading for Aquarius for the month of January 2021. Welcome to the new year. If you are not an Aquarius, please look on my channel to find the reading for your sign. This is a general reading meant to apply more broadly across the entire month. And if you're looking for something more specific, check out my daily readings. Now, in this reading, we will be using my adaptation of the Celtic Cross, and I'll explain the meaning of each card as I draw them. Please leave me a message in the comments if you have any questions or if you would like some clarification. I'd also be very happy to draw a few additional cards for anyone who has subscribed to the channel, so just ask me in the comments if that's something you'd like, and we will do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here for my Aquarian friends for January. This card represents your current situation. This is what's crossing you or challenging you, influencing you. This is what you're moving away from. And this is what you're moving toward. Okay? Now, this is the foundation or the subconscious. This is the crowning thoughts or the conscious mind. This is your advice. This is the current environment, your fears, and this one is your overall message or your long-term outcome. Okay, so starting off, for your situation here, you have this Ace of Coins, but it's in the reverse, right? So this represents a sort of like there's a little bit of a hold up here. There was an opportunity or an idea for like a new business or a new generally it's in the physical realm, a new financial opportunity, something of that sort of situation. But in the reverse, it's kind of been held up here. There's a little bit of a delay or something hasn't quite worked out the way it was supposed to. You can also look at it as kind of like a negative financial opportunity or something that doesn't quite work out very well for you. So that's the current situation. Something's just kind of either been held up that you thought you were optimistic about. You thought it was going to be a good thing, but it turned out to be a little bit not what you thought it was. Or it could just be delayed. You know, it could be that there is a great thing that's coming, but it's just sort of delayed. The crossing you is this Nine of Swords in the reverse. So this could be, you know, Nine of Swords typically represents anxiety or being worried about being worried. And in this particular artwork, I love the way they do it because it's got like this cat and he's up in a tree. And, you know, I don't know what chased him up there in that tree or the reason that he ran up there to hide. But while he's up there, instead of feeling better and safer, he's listening to all these worries whisper in his ear. And they are kind of, making him even worse, even more scared. So he's not going to come down out of that tree, right? But if he only looked up a little bit, there's also some good aspects in the situation. There's something to focus on which can sort of like bring your head out of that trying tribulation of thought. Now, in this reverse situation, you know, you may be kind of feeling a little bit of release from these types of anxieties. There's maybe some sort of hope, but it's still kind of nagging at you. There's this reason for you to kind of dip in and out of this feeling of anxiety, because it wouldn't be there if even though it's in the reverse. If the anxiety wasn't there at all, this card wouldn't show up. So even though you are kind of like breaking free from that, you're kind of recognizing how to focus on the positive aspect, there is still a little bit that's kind of tempting you to fall a little bit back into despair. You're moving away from this Judgment card. Moving away from this means, first of all, there is a lot of... Well, judgment has several different meanings. So first of all, judgment is like not just your assessment of the situation. You know, you think, oh, I have good judgment, right? It's not just your assessment of the situation. It's also kind of your history with the situation, kind of knowing how things have worked out. So like the Justice card is really more about like logic, where something may mathematically have the best odds and you make your decision that way. But in the judgment card, you may know, well, even though that seems like a good idea on paper, I've been in that situation before, and so I'm not going to get into that. So you're moving away from this. You're kind of perhaps going into some newer territory where you're not able to rely on your judgment quite so much. Things are different than they've been in some tangible way, where you're feeling a little less confident in yourself and your ability to make a good decision. And it could also be, judgment has an external aspect of it too, where others judge what you're doing or judge you effectively, that kind of thing. So you could be also moving away from that type of a thing where you're going more into your own realm instead of worrying about what others are thinking about or something. And so that's a little bit more of a positive way that you could be moving away from this judgment. But in the more scary sense of the thing, it's like you're moving into uncharted territory a little bit here. What you're moving toward is this Eight of Coins. So the Eight of Coins is a diligent worker. He's hard at work making something happen. He's good at manifesting, even though it's a coins, right, instead of like a wands or the magician here. But he's good at bringing what he needs into existence through a lot of hard work and brute force. To somebody else who's looking on, he may seem almost magical, right? This guy looks like a wizard or something. But from the perspective of the Eight of Coins itself, it's really just hard work. And people who aren't putting in that hard work might think it's very impressive what you're able to accomplish, perhaps because they don't have the diligence and patience that you do. So you're moving toward this energy of really putting in some good effort into accomplishing something that you want. So that's good. That's good that you're moving toward that. The foundation of the situation here being the Eight of Swords in the reverse, similar to the idea of this Nine of Swords in the reverse. There was kind of this feeling that you were trapped or that you didn't have the ability to do something. You had external constraints on yourself. And you're beginning to understand that you do have more power than you realize, even though it may not be easy. There are things that are within your capability of doing. So it looks as though there's this sort of light at the end of the tunnel that you're sort of realizing, that you're looking at, maybe for the first time, or it just has been, you've been kind of down about the situation, and now things are looking a little bit more up. Or you're feeling like there's a way out. You can act. You can do something that is a little bit more active in the situation instead of sitting back and like just accepting however it goes. You're seeing a little bit more of an opportunity to change things through your own effort, right? So crowning thoughts here is the sun. This is a great thing to have in the sun. This is some knowledge for sure. There's been sort of maybe some enlightenment or an epiphany that's happened where you're seeing things in a new light. You're seeing things closer to the way that they are instead of just some false mental image of how things are. And everyone's encountered this where you meet somebody who just has it totally backwards. They just don't get it. This is not you in this situation. You get it, and you are on a good path of moving forward. And you have this optimism, which is probably the very thing that you may have been missing before. Confidence is key. The more that you're able to tap into this confident attitude that you can succeed, that you can get things done, the more you make that a reality. On the other hand, if you're always focused on the difficulties, on the problems, if you're focused on the problem, you can't see the solution, to borrow a phrase from Patch Adams. Yeah, but it's true, right? So there are people who see problems, and then there's people who see solutions. And I see it all the time at work, even when, not even just trying to toot my own horn, but when I watch how my other coworkers are interacting with each other. There are some people who are always looking for the way to move forward, the way to kind of succeed. And then there are other people who are frightened and afraid to move forward. They are constantly slowing things down and saying, well, wait a minute now, we need to be careful, right? And in my line of work, that's really good because both of those types of people assist each other. Because if we make a mistake, it's very bad. But in a more general sense, you have to decide which of these types of people do you want to be. And it's difficult to be both, right? And it's maybe not even a good idea to try to be both. That's kind of hesitation and dithering. Whereas if you just kind of find out how to find your place in your environment and work synergistically with other people, it's better for you to just sort of embody that role on your own of whichever way you're going to choose. And it looks like it's going to be more appropriate for you to have this more optimistic attitude here, to be driving forward rather than to be dragging things down or pulling back. Now, your advice for this situation is this King of Wands. That's again kind of going at what I was just talking about King of Wands is all about action. He's the king of action. He's a doer. He gets things done. He shoots first and asks questions later in a less sort of violent way. He's the person who's going to jump in and going to get things done. He's not going to sit there and allow other people to tell him why it can't be done. He's going to prove them wrong. He's going to do the impossible a lot of times. And the impossible is only the impossible until somebody does it, right? And everything was impossible at one point before it was actually done. Now, so again, this is your advice. So bring this energy to the situation. Don't be discouraged, or don't let anxieties and things like that get the better of you. Just have this sort of faith, this confidence that things really can work out, and keep going. And if you lose, that's great. Failure is wonderful. If you can learn to make failure your friend, it's really great. And I always point to Elon Musk, right, in SpaceX especially. This is a company that has embraced failure in a huge way. It's really revolutionary. With NASA before, they had this rule that they weren't going to, or failure is not an option. They weren't going to fail even once. They didn't want anything to fail. They wanted to over-engineer things to the point where failure was almost never going to happen. And Elon Musk came around and he said, well, that's just completely wrong. That's the wrong way to do it. They have a policy where if they have even a 51% chance of success, they test. And the reason for that is because he recognizes that even if he fails, he's going to learn a lot from those failures, and he'll be able to try again and learn from all those mistakes. And that moving forward that way, instead of letting things pull you back, increases your progress so much faster. And so it's all about not hesitating and going for it. And it's a really powerful business practice. I mean, his accomplishments in space travel have definitely been numerous, regardless of what you think about him as a personal character. Now, the environment card here is the Ten of Wands in the reverse. So this is a little bit of, there's typically an over-encumbered or taking on too much with this Ten of Wands. But that's not happening so much here. It's being a little bit resistant to that. So it may be that you're encountering some resistance of people who really don't feel like they can take on anything else. And so you may be kind of going it alone a little bit here instead of having other people jump on board with you really easily. But that's okay. Remember, the King of Wands here is very determined, and what will happen is your determination will become infectious to other people. You will get people on board just by having that super determined energy and just sticking it out and keeping on going. People will fall in line behind you because that's what drives people. And go back to Elon Musk, for example. People are begging to work for that guy because they really believe in his vision and his business practices. And even though it's another large corporation, I would love to work for that company, and I'm pretty much as anti-corporate as it gets. So, it's not about it being a corporation. It's that the vision and the work ethic and everything is infectious to other people when you really believe in it. So the Fears card, the Hanged Man here. This is probably an indication that you are afraid of not having a sort of power in the situation, not being able to do anything. And, I wouldn't say that fear is invalid or unjust, but what it is really you have to shift your focus from feeling like everything needs to be controlled. You have to shift away from that and into a mindset of control what I can control, right? That's what the real crux is, because most people do not accomplish a whole lot, really, relatively, in their life. Most people just don't do much because they spend a lot of time and energy trying to control things that are completely outside of their control. So imagine if instead of trying to control things that are really outside your control, you took all that energy and put it into things that you can do. Well, that would be amazing, right? That's what would drive you toward being extremely successful and extremely capable, instead of feeling hopeless or powerless in the situation. So, the Hanged Man is typically really a positive place, because it's definitely a realization of the necessity of letting go in certain aspects of your life, which can really be a jumping off point to figuring out that you do have a tremendous amount of power if you are able to sort of tap into what you can do, instead of being focused on the aspects of the situation that you can't control. I'm trying to get you a little bit better of a camera view here. Okay, that's a little better. So your advice card here, or the overall message for this reading, is this Magician in the reverse. Magician, again, so Magician's about manifestation, about whatever it is in your mind that comes about is, pops up into existence almost by magic, right? The Magician. The reverse, it's like a little bit of a block. So you're likely to encounter some difficulties throughout this situation, but what's going on here is that you're learning this power of manifestation. You're learning how to accomplish this. So you're going to be tested, and the purpose of the testing is to temper your resolve, to temper your ability to, instead of seeing these obstacles, seeing what you can do, seeing the space in between the obstacles that you're able to operate in. And the degree to which you're able to do that, the degree to which you're able to navigate these obstacles, is going to really determine how successful you are in this sort of next phase of your life, where everything is moving away from being bogged down by self-doubts and worries and things like that, and more into an empowered and accountable state of being. So, being the overall message, that is a pretty positive direction for you to go. But just to remember that through this situation, you're going to be tested, and that's okay. That doesn't mean to let go of this. It means that if you keep this sort of energy going, it's almost like picture yourself trying to push like a giant boulder like down a hill. When you first start, you can put everything you have into it and it barely budges at all. It's very difficult to get anything going at first. But if you keep consistently putting that pressure there, eventually it starts moving. And then once it starts moving, it gets easier and easier. And before long, the thing is taking off on its own and you don't have to put any effort in, hardly. So you have to look at the situation that way, that things are always extremely difficult to get started in the beginning. But if you can push past that and not let it discourage you, things get a lot easier and pretty quickly, really, relatively speaking. Sometimes you have to put in weeks or months of effort, but look at it in the grand scheme of your life. If it's only 2 months worth of really hard effort between you and your wildest dreams, isn't that worth it, right? Isn't that a worthwhile endeavor? Just because something doesn't happen instantaneously doesn't mean it's not worth doing. And so that's the message for you for the month of January. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please, again, leave me some comments if you want some additional clarification. If you are a subscriber, I would be happy to draw some additional cards for you. All right, thanks again, and again, check my daily readings, and we'll see you next time.